Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty and this is a new Christmas pattern tutorial where we're going to be making this pattern here together. You don't need to be able to draw these mushrooms. I've got you covered with this stamp brush here, this one here, which you can find in my freebie library, so you can trace over yours and yours will look exactly the same. You can find that in my freebie library and there's a link for that in the description. I'll be using my pattern maker canvas and brush set to make this. It's got these lovely seamless texture layers in it, and then all of these layers set up here so that you can easily put the pattern together. But in case you don't have it, you can still follow along with this tutorial. If I hide these for now, you're just going to need to start by drawing on an empty layer, and I'm going to turn the drawing guide on, and I've edited my drawing guide so that I've got the maximum grid size there. And then all you need to do on this empty layer with any old brush, you just need to draw a diamond in, going all the way off the edges, like that. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it's still going to work. It just really needs to be going off the edges there. So you can see that's gone all the way off. Those go all the way off the edges. Those do, and those go all the way off the edges. This won't be in our final pattern, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for our sketch layer. If I get rid of this layer here, and then I turn on these layers here, I'm going to turn the drawing guide off as well now because we don't need that anymore. And then we'll turn our sketch layer on, and you can see here, this is just in our sketch layer. It won't be showing in the final pattern, so like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you do already have the pattern maker canvas, this will already be set up in your sketch group here. If you've never made a pattern or followed a tutorial with the diamond method before, and you'd like to know the why before you follow along with the how, then you can find a complete introduction to it in this video here, which I'll link to in the description and also at the end of this video. Otherwise, let's dive right in. So I'm going to start on my draw here first layer. This is just an empty layer, nothing is on it. And then I'm going to grab my Christmas mushrooms brush here, and I've got the size set at 81%, and this is a 12-inch square canvas at 300 dpi. So I'm just going to stamp one of these in the middle here, and I'm going to then grab the layer and I'm just going to center it now. So I've got snapping and magnetics turned on, and we'll just center this on the layer there. So now we can pinch to merge this with our sketch diamond. So now we've got the mushrooms and the diamond all on the same layer, and that is going to allow us to duplicate this layer and then tap to transform, and we can grab and move around the whole canvas, and that's going to allow us to snap it perfectly to the edges. So we're going to drag this one down here and to the right, and you'll see we've got those orange lines, which means it's perfectly snapped into the corner. And because we've got this perfect diamond here, you can see that's perfectly lined up as well. If you drew yours in by hand, yours probably isn't going to match up like that, but that, as I said, that is okay because it won't be in our final drawing. So then we duplicate this bottom one again, tap to transform, and then we're going to drag it up and over to the left and snap it into this corner here until you see those orange lines. Duplicate the bottom one again, drag it up and over to the right, then duplicate and drag it down and to the right as well, making sure you want orange lines there. So there we go. You want to see orange lines snapping, and then you know it's exactly in the corner. Then I'm going to pinch and merge these top 4 layers together, and those are the outside ones, and then we've got this inside one here. And what I'm going to do with this one, this isn't the thing I normally do when I'm making patterns with the diamond method like this, but for this type of pattern, because it's a really simple one, what I'm going to do is tap to transform, and I'm going to flip this one horizontally, and then all of these mushrooms on the outside will be going one way, and then this one will be going the other way. So the next thing we want to do is to put our snow in. So I'm going to duplicate this spare diamond here. If you don't have one of these, you'll need to draw another one in. And I'm going to turn it on, unlock it, and un-alpha lock it. I always keep it locked and alpha locked so I can't accidentally draw on it. And I always keep a spare one in case there's other bits I want to do. So now I'm going to go to my pattern maker canvas brush set. I'm going to grab the mini dot brush, got it as big as it will go, and I'm going to put some snow in, just sticking inside this diamond here. And when we transform this to the outside, I need to keep in mind that this is going to be round the other way. So for example, I don't want to put a dot there because this hat is going to be flipped around the other way for these bits. So we'll just kind of put it in to start with and then see how it goes. I'm going to deliberately put something in where I think it's going to clash so I can show you how to check and fix it. So let's put one there, and that's probably enough. So on this one that's now called spare diamond, we'll duplicate this one, tap to transform, and we're going to put this around the edges just like we did before and see how our snow lines up with what's around the outside. So there we go, I can already see here that's too close to that, and it's because in the middle where this is flipped around, that's further over that way. So we'll get everything in and then see what we need to correct. Bring that one down as well. So we've got all of this transformed around to the outside now. We can merge those 4 layers now. So what we need to do is to look around these ones on the outside and decide if any bits of snow are too close or overlapping with the mushrooms around the edge. And it seems to be just this one here. So we need to find that bit of snow on the central tile, and it is this one here. So we can delete this one on the outside, and then on this one here we can just erase that bit of snow there and maybe just move it a little bit further down to there. And then because we've just done that, I'm gonna put those bits in there to make it a bit more evenly spaced, and then we'll repeat that and see how it's lining up now. So we'll duplicate this one, and then we're going to drag it into all of the corners, making sure we have those orange lines each time so that we know it's going in the right place. And I think we've put too many in down here now, so let's go on to this one down here, and we'll just take out that one and that one and maybe put one in there, and move that one down a bit. So now I'm going to pinch these 4 together. This is a good thing about doing it this way. Get your sketch sorted out first and use kind of the trial and error, move things around. And then when you come to draw your motifs, you know everything is in the right place. There we go, so we've got no overlapping snow there now, so we can merge those 4 together, and that is our sketch done. And now we come to illustrate our motifs, and the beauty of this method is that we only have to illustrate what is inside this diamond. We don't need to draw these mushrooms up here, we just need to draw these, and then we'll be creating these ones with what we made in the middle. So I'm going to turn down the opacity on these middle snowflakes, and also turn down the opacity on these middle mushrooms. So what I've turned down the opacity on, that's the only ones that we need to draw. So I'm going to collapse my sketch group, and I think I'm going to drag it above my pattern to do while we're working here. So now I can turn the pattern layer on, so it's got this marker in there so you can keep track of what I'm working on. I'm going to turn the opacity down on that one a bit, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So the base layer will be these mushroom stalks. So I'm going to draw these in white, and I'm going to grab the tracing crayon for this one, and I've got my brush thickness at 18%. So I'm just make sure I'm on the right layer. So on this pattern 1, and then I'm going to add a layer above to work on. I'm just going to draw over these and close the shape up there. And the reason I'm closing the shape up is because we're then going to use colour drop to fill those in. And then we need to go and fill in these little gaps that you get around the edges, because adjusting the threshold never seems to make them fill quite properly. I've got a video on how to fill these in Procreate, do everything all in one go using the select tool and a Gaussian blur. I'm not going to go over it now because we've only got 3 of everything. It's not too much tracing to have to do here, but if you want to know how to do that, I'll put a link for that in the video. So that's our mushroom stalks done. I'm going to add a layer above these now. And with this pattern, I want it to have like a really sketchy feel. So I'm going to do a base layer of everything in white and then clip a layer of scribbled colour above it. So on this layer here, I'm going to tap the clipping mask, and that's clipped it down to the layer below. Then I'm going to grab this mushroomy colour, and I'm going to grab the fun sketcher, and I'm just going to scribble over the top there. And you can see if I zoom in, it's got that nice scribbly texture there. So the next layer to do is the mushroom caps. So they're going to eventually be red, but I'll draw them in white. Actually, I think I'll draw them in red because it's going to make it easier to see where I'm going down there, but then we'll fill it with white afterwards. So we want the tracing crayon, and we're just going to draw these mushroom caps in. And I'm drawing and then holding so that I get a nice snapped curve. If you watch up here, you'll see it will like say, I can't remember what it says now, arc created. There you go. Then we'll close that one up so we can fill it. And then just do this bottom one down here. And then we can colour fill all of those. And then I'll just quickly go and trace around the gaps there. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with textured brushes. I love this textured line, but I hate it when it comes to colour filling. So now we can alpha lock this layer, and we're going to fill it with white. Then we can add a layer above, clip it down, grab that red colour again, and then with the fun sketcher brush, you can just go in and scribble over the top there. And that way we get this really fun textured finish on it. And the reason why I do this on a clipping mask rather than just alpha locking the white and scribbling over it, which is the thing I used to do when I first started drawing in Procreate before I really got into clipping masks. I just hide this layer and unclip it. So what I used to do would be to alpha lock a layer, and then I would just draw over the same layer like this. But if I want to recolor that, it's quite difficult to do. You'd have to use hue and saturation rather than just being able to fill the layer. If I turn this layer back on again, so if I alpha lock this layer and say I wanted to make these green, I can grab the green color and tap fill on this layer, and it's going to easily recolor it, and we keep the texture. Whereas with this one here, where I've alpha locked it and colored it on the same layer, if I was to do that on this layer, we lose all of the texture. It's just going to fill everything on that layer. So that's why I use clipping masks, because it's really easy to recolor. So what I need to do now is make this bottom layer white again, and this one red, and then we're back where we started. There we go. So the next part I'm going to do is the trim on the hats. So let's add a layer, and I think we'll make this one the mushroomy colour underneath and then scribble with white over the top so that we're keeping the texture on that. So back to our tracing crayon. I'll just fill these in. And then we'll add a layer above, make it a clipping mask, and then we'll grab the white colour, the pure white, and the fun sketch brush, and we'll just scribble over this one like that. It's difficult to see at the moment because it's got the sketch layer over the top, but we can hide that here. And there you'll see we've used just the same two colours there, but by putting one underneath and one on top and then flipping that, we've got like a darker on the bottom and a lighter for these hat trims there. Let's put our sketch layer back in now, and then we need to draw the hats. So we'll come down underneath the fur trim but above the mushrooms and add a layer in there, and we want this to be white with green over the top, but we'll draw it in green so that we can easily see. And we want the tracing crayon brush, and we'll just draw that in there, making sure that we close these shapes up so that we can use colour fill on them in a second. So now we'll alpha lock that layer, fill it with white, add a layer above, clip it down, grab our green again and the fun sketcher and just scribble that in there. There we go, and all we need to do now is the faces, I think. So we'll add a layer in there, grab black by double tapping down here. I'm going to use the tracing crayon and I'm just going to draw these cute little faces in with it. Then I'm going to add another layer because I always like to keep every colour on a separate layer. I'm going to grab the pink and grab the gradient texture and use this to trace in their cute little cheeks there. And then last of all, I'm going to group all of these together now. So that's all of the mushroom parts I'm going to group within that pattern group. So we've got all of the mushrooms in their own little group there. I'm going to add a layer above and I'm going to put the snow in now. So with white colour, actually I think we'll draw this with the mushroom colour and then scribble over it with the white. So we'll just go over all of these light grey dots there, making sure we just do the light grey ones. So down there, for example, we wouldn't do that one because we've already drawn it up there. Then we can add a layer above, clip it down, and with our scribbly fun sketcher, we'll just draw over those. And I'm going to turn the sketch off now so that we can see what we're doing there. So that's a really easy way to build this fun texture into your drawings, is to use a white base layer and then clip a colour over the top and scribble over it in a really cool texture. And then when we turn our main texture on, the seamless texture, that brings it even more and it really comes to life, especially where we've got the texture on the background now. I'm going to hide that for a second while we do a bit more work on this. So that is all of the illustration we need to do now. The rest of the pattern will be made by duplicating and transforming these parts. But what we want to do is to always keep all our layers intact here. We've got all of the different parts here, so if we wanted to change colours, we keep these layers intact so we can go back to that. So if you've got enough layers, you could duplicate this pattern group to then flatten a copy. Or if you're short on layers, what you can do is turn off the background colour, make sure you've got your textures hidden, and I'm going to first of all make a copy of the snowflake. So I'm going to hide the mushrooms and also hide the pattern marker. I'm going to swipe down with 3 fingers, tap copy all, and I'm going to cut here to my layers, so outside of this layer group, and swipe down with 3 fingers and tap paste. So now, if I hide that, I've got this flattened version of the snowballs or snowflakes. I'm going to hide that now and turn my pattern layer back on. I'm going to hide both of these snowflake layers in there and turn on just the mushrooms now. And again, I'm going to swipe down with 3 fingers, tap copy all. I'm on this inserted image layer up there that I've just pasted, so I can swipe down with 3 fingers and then tap paste. So now up here, if we turn these off, we've got mushrooms all on one layer and then the snowballs all on one layer as well. So now we can put our background colour back in. And if you remember, when we made our pattern, we've had the mushrooms on the outside round one way and then these ones in the middle were flipped around. So we need to make a copy of these and flip them the other way around to put around the edges. So these mushrooms, I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to hide one of them. And then I'm just going to grab any old brush and we'll use black so it's really obvious where the marks are. I'm going to put a mark in these 2 corners here and they need to go off the edge on each side of the canvas. Then we can grab this whole layer and flip it horizontally. Now we can duplicate this layer and we're going to put it into the corners the same way as we've been doing all the way through the pattern. So drag it up and over to the left till you've got your orange lines there. And because we're working in our final pattern now, these ones really need to be perfectly in the right place. So you really do need to be looking out for those orange lines now. So duplicate and drag that up and over. Duplicate again, drag it down to the left. And then this last one we don't need to duplicate, we can just move this one. Drag it over there. And can you see there, I've got a blue line and an orange line. What I need, there we go, is the orange lines, no blue lines, just orange lines crossing there in the corner so that we know it's in the right place. So then those top 4 layers here, we can merge those 2 together and we'll erase these marks in the middle there. And then we can turn these hidden mushrooms on, and then so we've got these on the outside going one way and these on the inside going the other way. Those can now be merged together on one layer, and now we just need to put our snowflakes around the outside. So on this layer we're going to make those marks again. I'm going to bring it on top so that you can see them, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing and transform this around into the corners, making sure we've got those orange lines there. There we go. Then we can merge the top 4 layers together. We can erase these bits from the middle and then erase the black marks on these layers as well, this layer as well. Then we can merge all 3 of those layers together. So that is now a seamless pattern tile. At this stage you could export that as a JPEG or a PNG, and that would be your seamless tile. I'm just going to build it out now into a little preview similar to this one we had here. So let's first of all delete that one so it's not confusing us. I'm going to turn the textures back on now and you'll get to see a bit of a before and after. So this is without the textures, and that is with the seamless textures added in there, and you'll see it really starts to come alive and looks really magical. So let's wipe down with 3 fingers now to copy all, and then we'll come up here to our texture group, swipe down again with 3 fingers and we'll tap paste. And now we've got a flattened version of this up there. So we can turn everything else off now and we've got all of this flattened onto one layer. So we can tap to transform, and we're going to drag this up into the middle there, and it will snap to just this top quarter, and you'll see 1800 pixels if you're also using a 12-inch canvas, and you'll see the orange lines there, and then you'll know it's in exactly the right place so you can let go. Then we can duplicate this and tap and drag it over to the right side there. Can zoom in and check there's no gaps or anything looking suspicious there. That's looking fine. So we can pinch and merge those 2 together. Then we can duplicate this layer and drag it down to the bottom, making sure that you've got those orange lines there. Let me move that out of the way, see a bit better. So yeah, you need to make sure that you've got those orange lines there so you know it's in exactly the right place. And before we merge them, I'm going to zoom into the middle here and just make sure that that's all lined up and I've got no seams or gaps lining up there. So now I'm going to pinch these 2 together to merge them into one layer again, and I'm going to make this 1 step smaller again. So we'll tap up there to transform and just repeat those same steps again. Dragging this over there to the right, pinch them together, duplicate, and then drag them down there to the bottom. And there we go, that is our finished pattern. Don't forget you can get the stamp brush from the freebie library on my website, and you'll also find a 10% off coupon for the pattern maker canvas in there, which you can use in my Etsy store. Please tag me if you post your patterns on Instagram, and then I can share them in my stories. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.